Okay, hello and welcome to the Strategy Room interview series. I'm your host, Pete Lawson. Today, I'm joined by Bill Gallagher. Now, Bill Gallagher is the CEO and founder of Scaling Coach. That used to be Gazelles. They now call themselves Scaling Coach, I believe, from a chat with Bill. Bill, welcome, and thanks for coming on the show today. Could you tell us a little bit about the Bill Gallagher story and
Well, let me just put a little correction on that. So Scaling Coach is my particular entity or licensed partner of Scaling Up. So Scaling Up Coaches.
Yes.
Scaling Up Coaches is what used to be known as Gazelles Coaches. And Scaling Coach is just my particular business within that overall community.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic, Bill. Well, let's get started. Tell us a little bit about the Bill story, Bill Gallagher story. What do you do and who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I coach companies, CEOs and leadership teams in growth. You know, they're trying to grow their business and I coach them in that aspect of it. I tend to work with the application and evolution of the company. So I want to help the company grow and apply all the tools and ideas and frameworks from the world of scaling up. I'm not like a therapist.
Okay.
Not a life coach, not a therapist. I'm focused on getting the business growing and then helping you navigate that process so you enjoy it, you have more fun with it, like that kind of thing. I was a CEO, founder, or partner in 6 firms before, and I had some successes. I had some failures. As I approached 50, I realized I probably didn't want to do another company, but I wanted to exit my company and then do something around coaching. I'd been dabbling on the side coaching for a while. I had grown one business over 550 million. I'd had some things that really, 2 businesses that I shut down. Some I made money on, some I didn't. Like I had a big range of things across a range of industries. So professional services, tech, broadcasting, fashion jewelry, you know, like a lot of different industries. And I liked the range of it and not being focused in one thing, you know, not spending all of my life in construction or some other thing, but moving around. And so I knew that when I went to coaching, I would also be pretty broad, that some of the best ideas would come when we do things not like our industry does. So I didn't want to be the tech coach, although I've done a lot of funded tech companies. So anyway, that's where I started. I started off doing CEO coaching, just one-on-one CEO work and speaking in workshops for CEOs. The first year was really all about that. And the thing I noticed in the first year is that it was very up and down. Like even though I'd used the scaling up tools, I knew them, I'd applied them in my 3 prior companies. They weren't in the foreground, and I wasn't doing team coaching, so I spent a year doing this thing, and, you know, I'd get booked to do a bunch of speaking things, then I'd do some coaching, and I'd coach somebody for like 3 months, and then they'd sort of lose their focus, and it was hard to keep them engaged. And then one of my buddies in the Gazelle Scaling Up world said, Bill, you should come join us. Like, we're doing the same kind of thing, and you're going to get a lot of benefit from being in this community. And I joined the community after about the first year of coaching, and then formally used it. And it was a significant accelerator. So I suppose the first like breakthrough lesson of being a coach is, regardless of you know, your ability to open some doors and do things. I mean, just to give perspective, in this up and down time, in the first year, I think I spoke as I gave talks, right? Workshops and talks in across about 11 or 12 countries and about 26 cities. So, and I had a whole handful of clients like right out of the door, right? And that's, a lot of coaches don't even have that to begin with, but that was still up and down. And then I joined the Scaling Up Coaches thing, organization, the license, the community. And over the next 2 years, I quadrupled my business. So things got easier. The branding, the tools, the methods, the engagement practices, the pricing, all my world got a lot easier. And I had people to talk to, right? A lot of times people start off in coaching, they get some basic training, or maybe they even have no training. They just rely on their experience and they try to go it alone. And it's hard. It's lonely. It's hard. You're not credible. You doubt yourself. Even though you have things that should be bringing value, you start to not believe in your own values. So all of that was sort of, as soon as I joined, like my life got a lot easier.
Excellent. Okay, so getting involved with the community, pretty important part of your coaching journey.
Yeah, there's many. Sure. Look, I considered there's other frameworks, there's other tool sets. I work with people who are part of the Gallup strengths coaching community, and there's people in the table group with Pat Lencioni, and there's lots of different possible paths. You got to pick the group. Scaling up worked for me, but you got to pick the community and the thing that's a fit for you. But just trying to go entirely on your own, I don't know, probably not a great idea.
Yeah. Okay, so what's your philosophy when it comes to business coaching?
Well, I think like you have to deliver what people are looking for, right? I think about some of my best sales periods, right? Times when I was like really on where I was working. And it's because people said, look, I want to solve this problem at this budget, like whatever. And I'm like, okay, I think I could help you. It would look like this. And it was like easy, effortless, right? So I'm delivering what they asked for, what they wanted. Now, there's a credibility thing there. Like if somebody said, I need to do this and I don't know how to do that, right? I wouldn't sell them something. I wouldn't do it. And I'm sure people sometimes have faked it. But no, I would generally say, listen, that's not the kind of work I do or whatever. I think you should talk to somebody else. But letting people lay out what they want and then trying to see, can I apply it? Does what I have, what I do matter, right? So listening for the need in any time period, people need stuff, right? They need help. They need to grow when the economies are booming. They need to grow when the economies are bad. They need to grow through a crisis. Like they need all kinds of things like that, right? So trying to figure out what they need versus I sell this package.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, Bill. Can you share a time when things didn't go as planned in your coaching journey? And what would have been the lesson learned there?
Well, I think there's many periods where things didn't go as planned, right? 2020, COVID hit, my business went down 2/3 overnight, more than half. Right. So overnight, people said, we have to cut our budgets. We don't know if we have a business. We can't, whatever. So there's something that didn't go as planned, right? And I finished 2020 above 2019 in sales and profits, right? How did that happen? Because everybody canceled, my revenue went to nothing, but I'm home. And my assistant was like, do you need to lay me off? It's okay if you do. I said, no, let's do this. We have some cash. Let's see what people need. So I just put out a couple messages on social media. I said, if you're in a crisis, if you're freaking out, I'll talk to you. No charge. And she just started booking me to talk to people around the clock. I worked, not 24/7, but I worked as full as I possibly could for days on end, for months. And I helped people turn their business around. And some of those people then hired me and started working with me. I said, if you can pay whatever you can pay, if not, I'll help you for free, whatever's needed. And I just started helping people. And and then, if they didn't do it, they referred me to somebody else and so on. But anyway, after going down to about 2/3, I finished the year up over the prior year. How was that? In a severe financial hardship. The next year was even bigger, right? 2020 went up, 21 went up, 22 went up, right? So 23, 24 have been a little more interesting. So 23, there was a change in venture capital and funded. And because I've done so many tech related companies here and around the world, a lot of the funded companies ran into funding challenges. So I had to discount and do some novel things again when people had to do that. Now, being at the stage of life and the financial position, I don't have the same urgency that maybe a very young person would. So.
Okay, that's very interesting, Bill. COVID affects us all in different ways, but there's one great saying that goes along with what you've done, and it's you'll never go broke helping people.
Right. Like I think there's something about trusting,
Mm,
like coming from, I'm going to create value.
mm,
Uh, and I'm not needy. I'm going to create value, and I'm going to trust that it pays off in some way. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to just help people, right? I was taking calls from people in Taiwan, from
wow.
in India, from people in Europe, from New York, Canada, East and West, like all over the world. I was taking calls from people, and that led to things. It led to other kinds of things, like all of our tool set, which was used to being in person and things like that, we moved all those things online, so we could do both in person and online. In
Mm,
our in-person things, we started doing outdoor meetings, and we'd get around people's backyards or outdoor at a resort. And because people were not comfortable, and their advice wasn't you couldn't be too close to each other, right? So
mm.
we did things like that. And then we managed to figure out how to do mixed online, offline. And so we innovated methods and approaches and pricing and, all kinds of things, just looking at what do people need? What do people need? And that's, I think, what our companies need to do as well. What do people need right now, right? So COVID was a thing. It was an extreme event in our lifetimes, but that crisis led to innovation. But there's also things happening today, right? There's political, economic, there's conflicts, there's all kinds of change and instability. In fact, the only constant is change. Right? So things are always changing. The idea that there's periods of stability is kind of an illusion. There's relative change or more visible and less visible change, but it's all changing all the time. And if you're not leaning into that, right, whatever coaching practice methods you've got, whatever you did once to sell might not still be the way to do it.
Yes, Bill, you just answered about five of my questions, but that's okay. Bill, look, you've been in the game nearly 11 years now. You're very
Yeah,
experienced. So, in your
I am.
experience, what is the hardest part of being a coach, and how do you navigate that?
Well, so I think I don't know the like absolute hardest part. There's a couple hard parts, right? One
Mm,
of them is as a small business, right? Managing, running the business, growing the business, delivering the business, right? Solo practitioners um, struggle with all these kinds of things. And
mm,
today there's lots of tools, technology. You can outsource all kinds of things. So you can have a fairly small business and run it a lot more professionally
mm,
today. But you'd really be making a mistake if you tried to do it all yourself. So
yeah.
I've had a number of assistants over the last 11 years, but I always have had an assistant. So right from the beginning, I had some part-time assisting, remote, virtual, whatever you want to call
Mm,
it.
mm,
And that grew to where I have one primary dedicated assistant today. She lives down in Southern California, and she's full time, in my pay. And then I have a part-time person who does some content work for me. And then I have a whole bunch of contractors who are like regular, ongoing, multi-year things, and they produce our show, and they put out our newsletter, and they do my bookkeeping, and they are located in the cities that I work around the year. So they show up for my in-person clients and workshops. So I have a huge network of people
mm.
that help me to deliver, right? So I am working with thousands of companies a year. And while I might be central to a lot of it today, I have an increasing number of very consistent, dedicated resources that are helping me do that, people that help me deliver on that.
Wow. Okay. So, the message there, Bill, is don't go it alone. It's not possible.
You can't
Can't.
do anything big on your own, right? Like
Yep.
any really big pursuit is going to require a team.
Yep.
And then coordinating, engaging a team is thoughtful. Now, look, it's easier and cooler than ever before to do that.
Mm,
but like trying to, I don't know, manage your own calendar and your email and your bookkeeping and all that stuff yourself will make you crazy, and you'll do a bad job of it. And you know, you will inevitably do some things on your own, and you'll dabble in some things, but as quick as you can, get somebody to help with that, right?
Yes.
Outsource or delegate. Focus on that core piece, right? I like developing and refining the curriculum and tools. I like the one-on-one things. I like giving a talk or a workshop. I like seeing our work in like these are things that I can uniquely do. So all the other before and after needs to be handled by somebody else.
I love it. Okay, lesson to be learned there from a lot of coaches. You know, start your business out like you'd start any normal business. You've got to have some working capital there. Get people around you.
Yeah, or just you know, hire what you need at the time. I started with some part-time help, occasional stuff in the beginning, and then it became consistent part-time, then full-time, and then multiple full-time, and you know, so you start at scale, but I wasn't trying to do everything myself all the time, you know. And as quick as I designed something new, I found a team to work on it.
Yeah. So Bill, just turning the corner a little bit here. What's the most important lesson you've learned from your clients?
I suppose the most important lesson from my clients is that not everybody is a fit. Not everybody is somebody you should work with.
Yep.
They're a fit for somebody somewhere, but not necessarily you or me.
Yep.
And what makes a good fit is not somebody who looks like you. Like I've had some clients who love me and who are so like grateful and referring, like, you know, they refer other people to me and so on. And my first conversation with them, I'm like, wow, we are so different. And the reason they hired me is to push them in places they don't naturally go themselves, right? Like, you know, so the people who are very like structured and slow to act, they're like, oh, you generate ideas and you're informal and fluid, and like that world is uncomfortable for us. And we think logically and step by step, and you push us to break out of that kind of thing. Like, oh, great, I could see. But, you know, just because somebody is, I don't know, creative, irreverent, flippant, humorous, like somebody like me that I look in the mirror, I'm like, oh, you're cool, right? Because I connect with you. That's not the best client for me. The best client for me is often somebody who wants a little more of what I got and who isn't off put by it. But at the same token, there are some people who are off put by the thing. So I had somebody, a great company doing great work, good people, right? And they're like, oh, we're going to do this scaling up work, and we're just now breaking 100 million. We want to get to 500 and you know, hang on to the 100 that we got and keep growing. And you're like scaling up and the thing, and you're one of the top scaling up coaches in the world, and so we want you. And we've seen you're on TV and like you're our guy. And I'm like, great, I love what you do. And like, you know, we at the surface it all looked good, right? Then I met with them. I did 2 sessions, and they were like, it was a little like difficult, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And but they called it out, and they said, listen, you said the F word 7 times before lunch.
Forget. Did you say forget?
Yeah, I didn't say forget sometimes. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm really like unrestrained, and I want you to win, and I'm emphatic, and I'm irreverent, and I'm just uncensored, right? But I don't mean to be offensive, but I'm not going to be reliable. I'm not going to be reliable for managing my language working with you to never swear, right? So if that's important to you, and if you find my sense of humor off-putting, you should have a different coach. Now I'm going to recommend 2 other coaches. So I recommended 2 other coaches to them who are a lot more like politically correct, soft-spoken, gentle style. And they picked one of them, and they've been working with them ever since, right? Great companies doing great things, but I was clearly a style mismatch for that company. It's fine. Love what they do. I want them to win, right?
And that just points me to my last question, Bill.
Yeah, please.
What strategies do you recommend for building and maintaining strong relationships with clients?
Well, let me start about like where do you find like in the beginning, right?
Mm.
So I started doing my own work and I was up and down. Then I joined the scaling up community and one of the other coaches said, "Look, this is how you build your business. You talk to everyone in your world, everyone in your network, right? Your friends, your suppliers, your colleagues, your banker, your lawyer, like everybody like that, and say, listen, I need your advice. And I'd like to tell you what I'm up to, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. What advice could you have for me?" And people love to give advice, right? And mostly we ignore other people's advice. So when somebody asks us for it, it's usually a pretty good thing. People are receptive to that. So I had a lot of takers on that, and people had interesting ideas that represented new perspectives for me. But they also said, "Oh, you know what? I think you should talk to my buddy Joe or my friend Judy." Right. And they referred me to other people just because they started to get engaged in what I was up to and my openness. So using your network, like leveraging out to your own network of whoever it is that you know, that knows you, that trusts you from your past, is where to begin. And I think that, like, now 11 years in some ways I've gotten complacent with it. In many ways today, I've had enough referral business that I haven't had to do that. But I started this new program where I can take on a lot more clients in these coaching groups, and I've been needing to take some of my own medicine. So I've recently started going back to my network and saying, listen, I'm doing a new thing. I could use your advice. And people are like, oh, you should talk to my buddy Mark. So, or you should go to this bank and they could really they're trying to do things for their customers right now. And then, those people inevitably say, hey, why don't you do a workshop for our top customers? Right. So sure, I can do that in my sleep. Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I think
Bill,
always
yeah,
working with your network and building on what
yes,
you already have, engaging people with an open frame of mind is always a winning formula.
I love it. Well, we've learned a lot today, Bill. There's no doubt about that. And thank you so much for your time. It was great hearing your entrepreneurial journey and your coaching journey. And the people that tell me that they had no hiccups in their coaching journey, I tell you what, I just discontinue the interview normally. But you've
They're
told us,
liars.
you've given us the whole lot. There's going to be so much to learn from here. And to my listeners out there, to everyone watching, thanks for coming in today, and I look forward to seeing you in my next episode. Thanks again, Bill. It's been great.